Thank you for that, Ryan. I'm here joined with Nolan Kane, who got to witness the Lone Star Showdown in person. How was the atmosphere in C-Stat?
It was so incredible. The atmosphere was incredible. I mean, the fans are going crazy. I was getting called names, you know what I'm saying? But it was so fun. It was a night I'll never forget, and I'm so grateful I was able to be there.
Oh, and that's always great. And, A&M's always going to act like that. They are a little brother, after all.
Yeah,
While
you know.
Texas only scored 17 points, the Longhorns' offense was dominating, racking up 461 yards. How was Texas able to move the ball in such a hostile environment as, they always talk about how Kyle Field is one of the hardest places to play at?
Yeah, well, the record might say different at the Kyle Field. But anyways, the Texas offense was dominant. And if it wasn't for those two turnovers from Quinn in the red zone, this game wouldn't have been close. What Texas did in this game is basically what they did to Kentucky. They pounded the rock and dominated the line of scrimmage. A whopping 243 of the 461 yards of offense came from the Longhorns' ground game. This not only helped Texas consistently move the ball, it also helped them control the game from the get-go, and it showed on the stat sheet as Texas was able to keep the ball for 34 minutes and 44 seconds compared to A&M, who had the ball for just over 25 minutes of the game. When Travion Wisner, who's emerged as the top dog in the Texas backfield, claimed most of that yardage, totaling 186 yards on 33 carries for what was a special night for him. If I could, I would do a 30-minute segment talking about Wisner alone. I would. He's been that sensational. The way he runs between the tackles, hits gaps, and shrugs off defenders has been an absolute treat to watch. With him behind this O-line, it's going to be tough for any defense to slow him down. And let's talk about the Texas O-line because they've taken a lot of criticism for the run game, struggling in the first half of the season. But wow, have they flipped the switch. Kyle Flood has these boys rolling over opposing D linemen, and even when future top 10 pick Kelvin Banks went down, backup Trevor Gooseby picked up right where Banks left off. He was so good, I almost forgot Banks was even injured. Oh, and did I mention that they limited Texas A&M to 1 sack the whole game? Yeah, just an incredible performance for the big guys up front. Lastly, I want to give a big shout out to Quinn Ewers, who in my opinion, had his best game of the season, bar 2 plays. However, I'm not going to talk much about Quinn yet because I'll be going more in depth on his performance in just a bit.
You talked about probably doing a 30-minute segment on Travion Wisner. And you have to say, he was getting put in the conversation with Ricky Williams. He cemented himself as a Longhorn legend in that game. But I thought the funniest moment, you probably wouldn't have seen it because it was on the broadcast. Yeah. There's a moment of him on the little bike trying to keep him warm, and he just goes, he just looks up, and you can tell that man was gassed. But Speaking of that, we've talked about the offense. Let's switch it over to the defensive side. Many people have stated that this is one of the best defenses in the country, and on Saturday night, they held to Texas A&M to 0 offensive points. How did the defense pull this off, and who do you think made the most impact on their performance, and it showed?
Yeah, this Texas defense is special, and I can't find any other word to describe this group of players. That unit has had everything thrown at them. An early drive from Texas A&M into the Texas red zone, what do? They stopped them on 4th down. Offense struggling early, no problem. Michael Taft comes in flying for the interception. Late in the game, the Aggies are on the one trying to make it a 1-score game with all the momentum, all good. They'll just blow up A&M's 4th down play in emphatic fashion. You can throw as many punches as you want at these guys, but the horns will always punch back. Yes, the players on defense are extremely talented, and yes, Pete Kwiatkowski has set up an amazing scheme to put players in the best position to make plays. But what makes this defense so special is their heart. Simply put, Texas defense has 11 dogs on the field at all times. They want it more than everyone else, and they will die on that field if it helps the Longhorns get a win. It's been that way all season, and it was no different on Saturday as they were able to hold the Aggies to 248 yards of offense, force 2 turnovers, and ultimately stop A&M from scoring any points on that side of the ball. When it comes to choosing standout players, it's almost impossible because, like I said, there's 11 dogs on the field at all times. However, if I had to choose 2 players, I'd go with defensive tackle Vernon Broughton and safety Michael Taft. Broughton had 2 sacks on the night and lived in the A&M backfield for almost the entire game. Taft was also absolutely everywhere, getting an interception, 3 tackles, and commanding the Texas secondary all night. Without the performance of these 2 players and the rest of the defensive unit, the Lone Star Showdown could have flipped on its head in the second half, and instead of talking about a historic Longhorns win, I'd be sitting here wondering if the Longhorns would have even made the college football playoff.
It's so interesting what Coach Pique has built with the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they've always talked about it, how, yes, it is 11 guys, but they play as one and they play together as a unit.
Absolutely.
And it clearly showed last night and throughout this entire season just how dominant they have been.
Absolutely.
Now, Texas technically hasn't officially punched their ticket into the college football playoff featuring 12 playoff teams. But before the quest to the national champion title has yet to begin, they'll get a rematch against the Georgia Bulldogs. And it kind of determines who gets the bye week and the seeding for the playoffs. So big implications. What do you see from the Longhorns in the first matchup, and what do you think they need to do a second time around to get a good shot at the title?
Yeah, like you said, Texas has struggled this year, and it stemmed from the bad play on the offense side of the ball, specifically from their quarterback, Quinn Ewers. However, on Saturday night, I saw a Quinn Ewers that I really hadn't seen since the game versus Michigan. He didn't line up the stat sheet with 218 yards passing and a singular touchdown, but on a bad ankle, Quinn commanded the pocket with authority, made great decisions more often than not, and delivered dimes across the field, including by far his best deep ball of the season when he dropped a 44-yard dot right into the hands of Matthew Golden with several Aggie defenders nearby. Quinn also extended multiple times with his legs, which you really haven't seen all season. Yes, he did almost cost the Horns the game with 2 really bad turnovers in the red zone, but if you get rid of those 2 plays, Quinn was basically flawless. Yes, those costly plays that have plagued them all season are a big issue, but with the amount of time this Texas offense has, if Quinn can just cut those types of mistakes in half, then the Horns will be A-okay. Look, I've criticized Quinn as much as anyone this season, but what we saw from him against Texas A&M was elite QB play. Time will tell if this performance this week was an anomaly, but if Texas gets this Quinn Ewers for the rest of the season, not only do I think they'll get revenge on Georgia and win the SEC title in their first ever year in the SEC, I think Texas could win the whole dang thing.
You know, that's very interesting that obviously this probably, I think most Texas fans, or just like anyone who was watching this week, can definitely agree that this was probably Quinn Ewers' best game since the Michigan game. But I don't necessarily think he necessarily played a flaw game. I mean, those 2 mistakes, I don't think they were necessarily on him, but that's a topic for later.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Nolan. Let's go back to Ryan at the desk.